All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode, Fridays, here with Global News Podcast. And we have with us DualCon5ive, and we're going to get into some live action with Spider-Man is our topic of today. But it's more of a controversial situation. We got Sony. Takes Spider-Man, or should I say Sony and Disney fight over Spider-Man rights.
Yes.
Okay. So, and a comparison, you want to say hi everyone to everyone?
What's up, guys? Of course, yeah, you're going to see a lot. Yes, you're going to see a lot of videos with me in it.
Yes.
So if you don't know who Spider-Man is, let me introduce you to him. If you don't know who Spider-Man is, you've been living under a rock. Seriously.
Dun, 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 dun.
Spider-Man, the story of Spider-Man is, I don't know, college photographer, I guess. I don't know. And he was taking pictures of radioactive spiders, which you wouldn't normally just have a store full of radioactive spiders or something like that.
I don't even know if they exist, but in Marvel world they do.
Oh, what's next? I'm gonna be bit by a radioactive roach man.
They do have those.
What?
Yes.
What's next? A radioactive crocodile man?
Definitely roaches though.
What's next? A radioactive chair? Now there's gonna be Chairman. What about a radioactive Pepsi? Pepsi Man, that already exists.
Well,
Leaf Man.
let's talk about it.
Dog Man? No, that's a book. But yeah.
So let's get into a little bit.
But wait, I haven't told them.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Spider-Man got bit by a radioactive spider, and he had spider abilities. He can climb on the wall. He's able to catch stuff like a fly in midair, and he's also able to stop bullies from and then his Uncle Ben. We're not going to talk about Uncle Ben, but he spread some wide facts onto Spider-Man, and then I don't really know the rest, but that's Spider-Man. He becomes a boy that has spider powers.
So, well, let's get into a little some history of Spider-Man and how it all began. Well, Spider-Man started by Peter Parker and Spidey, okay, which was introduced by the Spidey comic book. So whenever Spider-Man was referenced, it was in the Spidey comic book, okay? And it was an American comic book published by Marvel Comics, okay? This began in August of 1962, okay? And this was the silver age of comic books. Now, Spider-Man has come a long way up until now, to a point where you have a lot of different movies. Spider-Man, I remember when Spider-Man used to be like a TV show back in the days. And
it was.
And I want to say that the uniform have changed. I don't know if y'all noticed, but Spider-Man comes in different uniform variations. I didn't see maybe the black and gray.
The black and red?
The black and red.
It was not black and gray, black and red.
Gray and gray.
Oh,
no,
you wait.
Not gray and gray.
Oh,
yes.
so you no wait. You mean okay? So in Spider-Man 3, because you probably never seen it, but I've at least heard it. Spider-Man 3. There's this thing called the symbiote, which is basically black goop, and it sticks onto Peter Parker's motorcycle. This is spoilers for Spider-Man 3, so go watch it if you haven't watched it and you're going to watch it.
So,
So it sticks on the back of his motorcycle when he's
mhm.
driving home. And then late at night on his bed, this black goop sticks onto him, and he becomes emo Spider-Man.
Which is what?
Uh, his suit changes to black and gray. He becomes furious, and he realizes this alien symbiote is taking over his body and controlling him, and so like he tries to take it off,
This
and it works.
this is in the new
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3 movie.
No, this is in the Tobey Maguire
Okay, I
Spider-Man
see.
3.
I see.
So then the symbiote falls on to Eddie Brock, another photographer that works at the Daily Bwaggle, and he becomes Venom in Spider-Man 3. So yeah, that's one of the suits you may have seen.
Yes. Now, when I made the reference, I was speaking from the TV show that was out in the 80s. And it was kind of interesting. But as we mentioned before, Spider Man has come a long way from 1962 up into this point. And like I said, the uniform colors have varied depending on the storyline, so on and so forth. And as we know it today, it is a Marvel comic. It has expanded into different markets. We're talking about from TV to merchandise to video games, and at this point, Spider-Man became a a staple in the Marvel comics. Now, if you had to pick, right, we can talk about the most standout comics that there is, right? That when you mention
Uh,
them,
I don't
when
really, I
when
don't
you
really know that much about comics, but I definitely know a lot about the movies.
but what about like
Spoiler.
the actual individuals? For an example, we know that we know about Batman, right?
Batman and the Batman who laughs, and
Right?
Batman,
We know about Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, all
Man.
man, right?
What about Dog
Minute
Man?
Man.
What about Dog Man? What about
So,
Pepsi Man?
just to
Dog
give you
Man
an
and Pepsi
example.
Man have been lost to history and no one has recognized them. But what do you say?
So there's a lot of comics that stand out. Now there's so many others that some people don't even know. Like for real, that was a comic story or that was in American comic books. Wow. But there's those who stand out. So for an example, we didn't really know too
Yeah,
much about Superboy, right?
yeah.
See what I'm saying? That's a perfect example. So
I a little bit know him because I played Lego Batman 3 and he's in
yes,
Lego Batman 3.
exactly. But the average person wouldn't know who that
Uh-huh.
is.
So let me just brief on all of or most of the suits or most of the appearances Spider-Man it has, I don't know. So Spider-Man, there is one Spider-Man that is one of the Spider-Man is Miles Morales. Miles Morales Spider-Man. That's what the Spider-Man's called. It's not called Spider-Man 2 or something like or Spider-Man number 2. And this Spider-Man takes place on the comics from the Ultimate Comics. The all new Spider-Man, Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, was a monthly comic book series published by Marvel Comics that debuted in September 2011. I'm not going to really talk that much. If you didn't know, 2011 is my favorite year. I really like it.
Yes. And so as we see that Spider-Man has been moving about and becoming very popular, and we know that it has taken many turns.
Yeah. So, if you didn't know, that Spider-Man that I just talked about was the Miles Morales Spider-Man. And yeah. And that Miles Morales Spider-Man really was never in
You want this? Okay.
uh um so that that the that Spider-Man appeared in one movie, but never in a live action movie, but in comics. One movie and probably two movies because Spider-Man Into the Multiverse 2. No wait, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 is coming out in 2023, so y'all get ready for another Post Malone song.
So,
Uh
do you
yeah,
believe?
and the the next the I don't really know if Miles Morales is going to make it to live action movies, but but there are way more instances of Miles Morales. There's going to be two upcoming things that are probably going to be in 2023 or 2024. One of them is being Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We're not talking about a movie or anything like this. We're talking about a game. All right, a PS4 game that includes both Spider-Man from the original Spider-Man Marvel Spider-Man game and Spider-Man Miles Morales game are going to be in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo. I just added that last part, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. So, if you don't know, yeah, yeah,
So,
that's what Miles Morales is going to be appearing in.
okay.
And the other appearance, of course, I already just said Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse 2. So, yeah, that's all I really got to say about
Well,
Miles Morales Spider-Man. So why don't you go ahead and tell them?
so basically, as we went over the year in which the 60s, 1962, when Spider-Man came out, it has grew and developed from that point. Then, as I mentioned, it was a part of the Marvel universe, comic universe, and it is right now at the top of the discussion because why? Sony dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun, dun,
has
dun.
has had the license
To Spider-Man
to Spider-Man.
during the Andrew Garfield and the Tobey Maguire versions of the Spider-Man, and and I know maybe not Andrew. Yeah, maybe Andrew Garfield. I don't know. But during the Tobey Maguire days of Spider-Man, Sony owned that. That's when Sony owned Marvel. Until Disney was like, "Hey, I'm giving you thousands and hundreds and millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
to buy Marvel." And you couldn't say no to Disney because they had almost everything.
Okay.
They had Star Wars. What else did they have? They had Hulu. They had ESPN. And they have The Simpsons. They have the Fox. They have a lot
Wait,
of
hold
things.
on.
Like, why say no to Disney?
Well, we don't know. We'll have a
Yeah.
discussion about Disney and Fox, but at this point, we want to talk about Disney and Sony fight over Spider-Man. And why is this important? Because Well, when Disney comes sitting at the table, they are willing to purchase something that is of interest. Now, let's talk about the two different companies. Okay. We know Sony is a whole nother different type of animal. Why? Because Sony is not just in movies. Okay. They have game systems,
Yeah. PS.
five, right?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Exactly.
They have
Televisions,
TVs.
right?
They have
Electronics, different things.
movies. But
Cell phones. The
yeah,
list can go on and on.
yeah.
But this has
On and
nothing to
on.
do.
I don't think they have cell phones. Maybe they do. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen some. One of my coworkers who I used to work with a long time ago showed me a Sony cell phone. So
And what
they
did it
definitely
look
make
like?
cell phones. It was cool. It was cool looking.
What are they called?
I'm not sure. It's just right now we know who's the top competitors, Samsung and
But during
and,
also during the
Apple.
time,
but I know.
yeah, Disney has a lot of stuff too. I mean, Disney has. I mean, most Disney didn't have all the things Sony had, but they were powerful in like movie wise or company
Dun, dun, dun,
wise.
dun.
Fox. There's what is it? Pixar.
Well,
and
we know Disney.
Star
is
Wars. There's
famous for
Hulu. There's
Mickey
ESPN.
Mouse.
Yes. Yes, there was Mickey Mouse. And I
Yeah.
can make Mickey Mouse say
Who
anything.
else? Who else Disney is famous for? Uh, you know.
Disney.
Hey, it's me,
Disney was the
Mickey
king.
Mouse.
Yeah. Disney was the king
So,
or is the king of almost every movie company.
so,
And now they have Marvel.
so, do they really have Marvel?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they have Marvel, they don't have Spider-Man, and that is the key that's missing, because that is the reason for Disney and Sony fighting over Spider-Man, because Sony been had the license to Spider-Man before Disney purchased Marvel. So
So
they want Spider-Man.
So Disney was like, "Hey, I'm here to buy the whole Marvel, all the rights to Marvel and stuff." And then Sony were like, "Sure, but you can't have Spider-Man." And then Disney was like, "Run that by my ear again. You can't have Spider-Man. We're keeping him."
So Sony
And then
kept,
they started to fight.
So Sony kept Spider-Man, right? And they've been having Spider-Man, and they did really well with Spider-Man, but they ran into an issue because recently Spider-Man hadn't did so well as they would hope it to, or like it did previously when they started with them in 2002. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be given Disney Spider-Man, because Sony wants to know how could they maximize the Spider-Man brand with what they already have, because we know Disney is calling and they are definitely behind the scenes going back and forth over this Spider-Man license agreement between the two, which leads to a ongoing storyline as it relates to, okay, we know Fox, right? We talked about Fox. They own the rights to X-Men.
And Simpsons.
So just speaking specifically to the Marvel comics, Fox owns X-Men. So do you think that was one of the reasons why Disney wanted to buy Fox? And as a matter of fact, I don't believe that deal went through for $80 billion. So Fox, we're gonna do a podcast on that. I don't want to misspeak about the Fox and Disney thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later in. Okay, so yeah,
we know that at this point that Spider-Man is a hot commodity, and Disney want to purchase the license from Sony so that they can acquire and have the rights to Spider-Man as they do with Marvel. And to do this, I don't believe that Sony is going to release the license to Spider-Man. I just don't see that happening. Now, Disney do benefit from the merchandising revenue that comes from Spider-Man, but that's about it. That's about it, because when you have the right, like when they purchased Marvel, they owned the merchandising. They can pretty much produce different merchandise related to all Marvel comics. It's just that they don't get to do the movies for them like Sony do. Sony owns the right to the movie making of the Spider-Man. That's a part of their license agreement, and that's what they have. But who you think is? Do you think Sony is going to retain their license with um, with the Spider-Man rights, or they're going to say, you know what, here Disney, for the right price, you can have it?
Well, I think that already
What
happened.
do you think?
I think there's something else. So, you see, Disney and Sony were like,
Dun, 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 dun.
they were fighting and stuff. But still, Sony wanted to keep the rights. So, Disney offered them a deal. Okay, Sony. So, you gotta sign this paper. So, whenever there's a new Spider-Man movie or something like that, I don't know. I don't really know that much about the deal that they made, but they made a deal that they would, I don't know, I guess both would be credited or would be the ones to make that movie, or they would both be like owning Spider-Man at the same time. I don't really know.
Yes, so I do believe that Sony is serious about making movies, and this is just one example, because Spider-Man was a good purchase, and they make other movies and other films that are very beneficial to the brand, and I just don't see Sony having any reason to relinquish the rights to Spider-Man. And with that being said, in short, will Disney function best as an empire tightly overseeing its subjects, or as a confederacy following a degree of autonomy in places far from the capital? Okay? That's where the modern landscape comes into play. While partnership made a lot of sense in 2015, a lot has changed since the deal was struck. Netflix, Apple, and other Silicon Valley players have entered Hollywood. Traditional films have felt they had to get bigger and stronger. Disney chief executive Bob Iger, especially realized this, and in the late 2017 bought Fox and its X-Men license. So there you have it. Okay? If Disney was to become the behemoth it inspires to be, it needed not only to make the movie, but to become a full partner in it. If it was to let things run, or should we say Feig? How would you, if we used to let Feig run the show, it had to make sure it owned the house, okay? But Sony wasn't having that. Sony wasn't having that.
Yes, it wasn't having that.
And thus, Disney faced a quaternary. Should it let Feig keep guiding the movies despite unfavorable financial terms? Should it keep its subject close, not allowing a studio and a far corner of its empire to go off and do what it would with an important piece of property?
Find out next time on. Just kidding.
Or should it walk away letting the far-flung corners of its kingdom do as they please and just live off the licensing fee. Disney chose the latter. It opted uncharacteristically to give up control, believing the movies weren't worth their effort for minimal return. In gambling, the films may not exceed or succeed as much without them anyway. Okay? So, with that being said, the studios aren't acknowledging that this was about money or strategy. Disney has yet to commit, and Sony said in a statement, it was simply a matter of Feig's time. We understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP, intellectual property. They do not own, okay? You can't work on something you don't own. Sony incidentally faced its own existential question. Could the studio craft its own superhero hits without relying on the executive from Disney to help?
We don't.
In an industry where pride can be gathered currently or current can gather currency, then greenbacks, having a rival produce your hits, isn't a good look. All right?
Yeah.
Think about that. Disney, though, seems determined to walk away. Executives have taken the position they don't need firsthand control of every last property or every last property in their stable. Of course, it's not clear they're going or doing this happily or would do so in the future. After all, there was a lot of there wasn't a lot, there was a little.
A little.
There was
Small.
that previous case of X-Men and Fox. Remember? In an instance, Disney let its licensing studio do as it pleased.
Yeah.
Then it bought the entire company.
Oh.
You see? That's Disney for you. That's how they work. Okay?
Yep. Trying to always keep their title family friendly. You want to know who else trying to do that? Nintendo, and they're doing it better than Disney.
Well,
to be honest,
I don't know about that one.
Nah.
Disney their goal is to become a behemoth.
Now it's Nintendo versus Disney to see who is the most family friendly title.
Let's talk about it. Nintendo is a foreign company, right? Right?
Made in Japan.
It's not an American company, but let's talk about it like this.
But guess what? You see, Nintendo has moved not just from Japan, but it's moved to almost every single state of the world, my baby. Now look, it doesn't really matter what state you're in. Nintendo is for you if you are a family friend. If you like it, if you just like Mario and stuff, Nintendo's for you.
So let me give you a backdrop then. Okay, yes, Nintendo, right? We talking about family and the younger targeted market or audience, right?
Not just
that
younger,
Nintendo produces,
older, both
right?
at the same.
So with that being said, let's think about it. Okay, I don't know if you remember, but guess who also was on the table for Fox and X-Men? Universal Pictures.
Yeah.
Let's just say Comcast,
Yeah.
okay? Because
And yeah.
Comcast is also be trying to become a behemoth
Uh-huh.
like Disney. So, what better way to partner with Nintendo?
Yeah. They're like Universal is just basically is trying to be like, "Hey, Disney, come over here." What is it, Universal? Hey, look what I got. Wait, what is that? It's the new untitled Mario film. We don't know what we're gonna call it, but we're teaming up with Nintendo. He's over here. You want to go speak to him?
They're
No,
right.
I don't. That is,
They're in my backyard, right?
yeah, exactly.
Boom.
They
They are
they've been.
attached to Universal through Super Nintendo World.
Mm-hmm.
So merchandise, all that, you know,
Hey, don't you want to talk to Nintendo?
conglomerate.
Yeah, Universal's like, hey, don't you want to talk to Nintendo? No, because we're competing. Why are you guys competing? You guys are two different things. There's a console making and movie making. There's no difference. Oh, there's no similarities. Oh,
Okay,
Nintendo's trying to be a friendly creator thing. I don't know. But I'm also trying to do that. And that affects me as a person.
so let's look at it. I thought about this too, right? You have Universal Pictures, or Comcast, should I say, forming its own conglomerate, which they do have. And then you have Disney. Everyone else is in between. So who's next? I believe, all right, this is my take on this. I believe that if, now you heard it here first, I don't know if this is going to happen or should happen, but if Universal and Warner Brothers get together, I believe that would be the straw that broke the camel's back, because they're neighbors, they do a lot of work together, and there will be no more other major companies to
Beat them.
partner with, or should I say become this big behemoth like Disney is. Disney has already obtained major markets
Now let me
in TV.
Yeah.
And
Now let me
and
say
so on and so forth.
Now let me say something more, even more
Warner Brothers
on
and
top.
Universal.
Let me
y'all,
say something even
y'all
more
go
on the
for it.
top.
Go ahead.
Sony with Warner Brothers with Universal.
See, that's the thing. I believe Sony will never partner with anyone because they are, once again, another foreign company, and they stand alone.
I know, but just think about it.
And they make
And
good
then I
products.
got another idea.
They do make good
Oh,
products.
why don't we just stack Disney onto our sandwich of crossover? Yeah. I mean, if they could all work together, they would be able to make a lot of movies, or one whole movie that would devour Disney if they could.
Okay,
Like,
so
Disney's big. It
so-
would take a lot to get rid of them.
so let's look at it from this perspective. All right, so it's really, I don't see any other companies out there that's doing it like in a conglomerate form like Disney and Universal. To me, those are the two major companies. I keep saying Universal, but it's really Comcast. Okay, I don't see, but that's just not even the same type of name. But somehow they came and did what they did. So, but I don't see Comcast and Disney. Well, I don't see any other people out there in Hollywood, even though we know Silicon Valley is now in Hollywood. But I just don't see any other major conglomerates out there like those two. And then everyone in between is really set to either be purchased or just stay a small company and stick to one form of producing. So Yes, Sony fights over Spider-Man.
Uh-huh. No,
Actually, no. Disney fights over Spider-Man rights with Sony
yeah.
because Sony already had the rights, and you know Disney would like them, and I don't believe that they're gonna what buy Sony and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No,
So
yes,
Disney
I don't think
and
they can afford that.
Disney and Sony are on a cliff right now. And by that I mean uh who's going to get Spider-Man back? Is Disney going to cut the deal with Sony? Or is Sony going to cut the deal with Disney? And by also mean by that is which one is truly going to get Spider-Man? One of them is going to be like, "You know what? It's here. You can have Spider-Man or I'm taking Spider-Man from you." Who's going to do that? We don't know.
It's more of like you have Spider-Man being licensed where it's at, and then you have Disney who purchased Marvel without those license, and they just want to have, the all of the different parts of Marvel. Okay, if X-Men is way over here, and if X-Men is way over here in Fox, and then you got Spider-Man and Sony, and then you got Batman over at Warner Brothers. I mean, come on, like, what does that mean? They already got Fox and X-Men, so they know they are not going to go. They know they're not going to go over there to Warner Brothers with Batman. No, and that's a DC world, right? That's the DC world. Who owns that?
I DC World that Warner Brothers really owns that.
Okay, so well, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude this episode of Global News Podcast. Disney and Sony fights over Spider-Man, and if there's an update with that, we will do another podcast on that. Until next time, if you like this video, please share it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And till next time,
Bye.
we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.